guys, Mike here, and we're out at Bullet Creek to field test our 3 AR-15 pistol uppers that we built in 7.62 by 39, 6.8 SPC, and 300 Blackout. What we're going to do is compare reliability, muzzle velocity, muzzle energy, and ballistics gel results with personal defense rounds. We're going to start with reliability. And what I'm going to do is put all these uppers on my registered M16 full auto lower. We'll start with semi-automatic and see how the uppers perform in semi-automatic. And then we'll stress test them by seeing if they'll run in full auto. Once we've confirmed the reliability of each upper, then we're going to look at muzzle velocity, calculate the muzzle energy for you. And with that test, we'll use the personal defense rounds. Then we'll take the best performing personal defense rounds and we'll look at ballistics gel results. We're going to start our reliability test using 1 round in a magazine. And the goal here is to make sure that we confirm that there's an adequate amount of gas pressure and bolt velocity to properly cycle the gun. This lower that we're using is already set up with an H3 buffer that I was using in my full auto. And so that buffer may be too heavy for some of these uppers that we've built. So if the upper passes the 1 round bolt hold open test, then we'll continue our reliability test shooting 10 rounds in semi-automatic. If that goes without a hitch, then we'll go ahead and move on to 5 rounds in full auto and see if we have any hiccups with these builds. This first upper is the 6.8 SPC. We have it in semi-automatic, 1 round in the magazine. Okay, now, ooh, that's hot. So in that first test, the bolt locked back, but the casing did not clear the chamber area. And so it was just laying on top of the magazine follower. So I'm a little concerned that there may be an issue with that bolt carrier, with the extractor, or the ejector.
So this is Alec with the 6.8 SPC. Okay, stop. And
I'll do a couple of semi-automatic shots and then we'll try a short burst in full auto. Okay. Woo. So what I've done, in the interest of time, I've just taken that 6.8 SPC bolt carrier out, and I have another one. This is a Fel Zero bolt carrier with a LWRC high performance 6.8 bolt. And so let's just change the bolt real quick, repeat the 1 round in the magazine test, and see if we get complete cycling with the bolt being held back and we get ejection of the empty case. Okay, we got the bolt held back when very good clearance ejection at about 3 to 4 o'clock. So let's use this bolt carrier and see if that makes a difference in our test. Alright, we'll continue with our function test now with a 6.8 SPC. I've loaded 15 rounds in the magazine. We do have the breast catcher on now. What I'd like to do is go through about 10 rounds in semi-auto. If we don't have any hiccups, then I'll try to finish the last 5 rounds in full auto and we'll see how it does. Okay, no problems. Let's see what happens on full auto. I know that's not a very high round count, but in the interest of the cost of ammo and time, it seems to be running very smoothly once we changed out that bolt carrier. I think there's a problem with either a weak ejection spring or the extractor is a problem with that bolt, and we'll look into that. Now let's look at the 300 Blackout upper. We're going to use supersonic ammunition. This is the Remington 115 grain full metal jacket. We'll do our 1 round in the magazine test. Okay, bolt held back. Looks like it's running good as far as the amount of gas. So let's go ahead and put 15 rounds in the magazine, 10 rounds of semi, and 5 rounds of full auto and see if it functions. All right, 300 Blackout function test. Semi-automatic 10 rounds, followed by a little full auto stress test. Okay, and then full auto. 5 rounds. Bolt hold open, working fine. 300 Blackout upper. Full auto test with 300 Blackout, 5 round burst. Next, our 7.62 by 39 build. So far, I've been very surprised that all these uppers are holding back the bolt with that H3 heavy buffer. We're just going to use some Wolf 7.62 by 39, and we're using the C Products magazines. Okay, we got bolt staying back and ejecting at about between 3 and 4 o'clock. So, let's do our 15 round test. With the 7.62 by 39, I'm going to leave the brass catcher off since it's still cased ammunition. But we'll run through the same scenario. 10 shots in semi-automatic, and then we'll finish out the last 5 in full auto. Perfect.
Do you want me to throw a piece of wood in there?
Not having any trouble in semi-automatic.
Keep going. There we go. Out.
Okay, the bolt held back. Okay, our friend Chris is going to continue with our test firing. Go ahead, Chris. Rounds. Now, obviously, before you take a gun out for personal defense, you're going to want to run more rounds through it to make sure that you do have a very high level of dependability. But for our test purposes, basically what we've done is shown that at least initially all of these upper receivers seem to be running relatively reliably, and we can move on with our other test. Now what we're going to do is take our personal defense rounds and run through these uppers and first measure the muzzle velocity of each of these personal defense rounds so we can figure out what muzzle energy each round offers in each caliber. Then we'll go ahead and do some ballistics gel test and see how these personal defense rounds perform in ballistics gel.
These are the rounds we're going to be looking at for personal defense rounds. In 6.8, I'm going to be checking 2 rounds. One is the Gold Dot 90 grain loaded by Federal, and then the other is this 110 grain loaded by DT Defense. It appears to be a Hornady projectile. The 300 Blackout personal defense round is this Barnes VOR-TX 110 grain VOR-TX. And then last is the 7.62 by 39 loaded by Winchester, their PDX-1 Defender, which is a 120 grain projectile. We'll first measure the muzzle velocities, and then we'll calculate the muzzle energy that each of these rounds offers out of our uppers, and we'll look at the ballistics gel performance. Out of all of these rounds, the only economically priced round is this Federal Gold Dot. I bought these on sale from Palmetto State Armory for about 50 cents a round. And all of these other personal defense rounds come in at about $1.50 a round. 7.62 by 39 using the Winchester PDX-1 out of our 7.75 inch barrel. 1880, 1725, 1856, 300 Blackout using the Barnes VOR-TX 110 grain, 2172, 2186, 2187. 6.8 SPC, we have the first 3 rounds using the 90 grain Gold Dot by Federal, and then the second 3 rounds will be the double tap defense, rifle defense ammunition, 2568, 2571, 2537. Now the double tap rifle defense ammo, 2233, 2208, 2219, very consistent. So here are the results of our muzzle energy test. We've looked at all 3 uppers now, and the clear winner for muzzle energy is the 6.8 SPC 8.5 inch upper. The highest performing round was the Federal 90 grain Gold Dot that delivered an average of 2,559 feet per second, which equates to 1,309 foot-pounds at the muzzle. In second place, the DT Defense ammunition. This delivered 1,204 foot-pounds of energy. So the clear winner as far as muzzle energy goes is our 6.8 SPC build. Second, in regards to muzzle energy, was the 300 Blackout. This upper delivered 1,163 foot-pounds of energy from an 8.5 inch barrel using this Barnes ammunition. And then in third place for muzzle energy is the 7.62 by 39. Now in fairness, this barrel is 3/4 of an inch shorter, which is a significant difference. But using this Winchester PDX Defender ammunition, which only delivered an average muzzle velocity of 1,820 feet per second, this upper will give a muzzle energy of 883 foot-pounds. Now at very close range, 883 foot-pounds is very adequate. There are several considerations we talked about earlier. Certainly as far as practice rounds go, this was the most expensive upper, but would be the least expensive to go out and practice shoot. The 300 Blackout did very respectable, but the ammunition is fairly expensive unless you reload. And then the 6.8 SPC, the high-performing ammo, was actually the cheapest ammunition in this test. While this Federal 90 grain gold dot delivered 1,309 foot-pounds out of our 8.5 inch upper build. If you'll recall, on our 14.5 inch build, this round delivered 2,814 feet per second, which equated to 1,582 foot-pounds of energy. So this is a very high-performing 6.8 cartridge. At only 50 to 60 cents a round is a pretty good deal. If you have a 6.8 and you don't have any of this ammo, I would suggest maybe you checking this out. Now, one other thing I would like to review as far as ammunition performance and barrel length goes has to do with this double tap defense 110 grain rifle defense round. You see that the published velocity is 2710 out of a 20-inch barrel. We did check this round out of a 16-inch barrel, and out of a 16-inch barrel, this round averaged 2583 feet per second and delivered 1,630 foot-pounds of energy. Today, what we saw is when we shortened that barrel even more down to this 8.5-inch barrel, then the velocity dropped down to 2,220 feet per second, and the muzzle energy dropped down to 1,204 foot-pounds.
At this point, the plan was to go ahead and take these personal defense rounds and test them in the ballistics gel. But yesterday at Bullet Creek, I made two critical mistakes. First, while we were doing our function test and reliability test, I made the mistake of leaving this clear ballistics, synthetic ballistics gelatin out in the sun. And when I went to set up the ballistics gel, it was extremely hot and starting to melt, so we couldn't do that part of the test.
And second, I forgot this gun ammunition in 300 Blackout with the 130 grain SOST projectile. This is the projectile used in the 308 Winchester Mark 319 Mod O. That's this round in 308, and I was really curious to see how this 130 grain open tip match projectile was going to perform when it's loaded in a 300 Blackout case with a very short barrel. So,
we'll have to take this gun ammunition out next week. We'll measure the velocity, calculate the muzzle energy, and then we'll take all of our personal defense rounds in these three alternative calibers and do ballistics gel test and show those results in next week's video. But I do think so far in our test we've shown two very important things. First, using very short barreled uppers for the AR-15 pistol or short barrel rifle, we've shown that you can get reliability in these three alternative calibers in the AR-15 platform. The 300 Blackout and 7.629 uppers ran reliably right out of the gate, and the 6.8 upper was having some problems initially, and we finally figured out that it was either the extractor or ejector or both that weren't working reliably, and we would occasionally get stovepipe malfunctions or malfunctions where the casing was just simply left completely inside the upper receiver, even though the bolt was completely cycling rearward. That was easily fixed by changing out the bolt carrier group in the 6.8 SPC build. Now, the second thing that we found that was very important is that each of these calibers offers some unique advantage compared to the other two calibers. For example, the 6.8 SPC. If you're looking for brute power, if you want the most muzzle energy you can get out of one of these very short AR-15 uppers, then clearly the winner was the 6.8 SPC. And interestingly, the most effective round was also the least expensive, using the 90 grain gold dot loaded by Federal. Now, if you're looking to suppress your upper, and especially if you reload, then I think the 300 Blackout has a lot to offer, and in this group of three calibers would probably come out ahead. The 300 Blackout offered the intermediate range of muzzle energy, but all of the rounds are going to be fairly costly unless you reload your own ammunition. And certainly if you're interested in suppressing, then the 300 Blackout and subsonic would be a lot better platform. And then that takes us to the 7.62 by 39. Well, in this caliber, what we found with a very short barrel is that it did offer the least amount of muzzle energy. Although it was almost 900 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, that's adequate, but the one attribute that this caliber has compared to the other two is that if you want to shoot a high volume of ammunition, then this is a much cheaper gun to shoot factory-loaded ammunition. You can find the ammunition for less than 25 cents a round. And if you want a gun that you can go out and shoot 200, 300, 400 rounds every weekend, then the 7.62 by 39 is the clear choice. So it really boils down to what you're after in a platform. All of these calibers worked well, and I think that they all have something to offer. Stay tuned now, and we're going to check out these personal defense rounds and how they perform in ballistics gel out of these very short barrels. I hope you enjoyed the video and found the information useful. If you did, please consider hitting the like button and sharing the video. If you have any questions or comments, please post those. And as always, I'll try to respond to those in a timely fashion. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.